There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go.
You are tuned in to the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA, as well as the Power Chord Hour podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening, if you're watching, however you're checking this out, thank you much for checking it out. I'm your host, Anthony Merchant. Very excited today to have on a guest. I can't believe, I was just telling him before we started, I mean, truly, like himself and anybody else who is associated with the band Punchline. Like, I don't know how in 10 years I've not had anyone on the band, on the show, by Mr. Chris Fafalios with us, bass player of Punchline. I mean, if not, I don't know if you're the band that I've seen the most live, but has to be one of the bands I've seen live the most in my life. Here to talk, I don't know, a million things. They have a new album, Somewhere to Land, out now everywhere. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I just can't believe it took 10 years to get me on a Power Chord Hour. What's the deal, man?
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Like, shout out to my buddy Joe Grice. Like, it's one of those ones, I wonder if it's too obvious. There's certain, and I'm sure there's other people too, but there's ones that are maybe so like on the nose that are so obvious to me that I'm like, oh, I've overlooked them this entire time. They probably should have been like people I asked, like, yeah, probably like year one. Can
I give a shout out to your buddy Joe Grice real quick?
Give a shout out.
Because I got to tell you, myself and our band on this last tour, when we were riding and we had talked to Joe at our Buffalo show on the tour, and Steve pulls up on his phone. He's like, have you seen Joseph Grice art? And we're like, no, I haven't seen it. And we were like, oh my God, his art is incredible, especially these paintings he does of birds. And you know what? Just this week, Joe sent me a package in the mail of prints for each one of us of his art. He is the man.
Do I have it? I don't know it'll show very well, but we have a Joe Grice bird on that little soundproof square we got there.
I see it.
He does amazing calendars every year, and they're so nice that you can't throw them. Like, you can't throw them away, so you rip out. The nicest thing about them is you pull those out, and then you have these, like, they're a little bigger than postcards, but then you can, like, put them on your wall afterwards. It is. He I don't know that everyone knows that. So even locally, I try to. It's funny because there's the side of him where, you know, we'll talk here on the Power Chord Hour about, you know, he also does music, and we'll talk pop punk and, I don't know, Joey Cobra and just whatever. And then on my other show, Arts on Fire, we're talking, you know, yeah, his bird paintings and all that. So sometimes it's Joey Cobra, sometimes it's Joe Grice. It depends who I'm talking to that day.
Yeah.
But Joe rules.
Yes, I agree. Very, very awesome guy, and love his art. I appreciate art of all kind, be it music, visual art, anything artistic, and he is a very talented guy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no, I mean, let's start off, you know, you were talking about talking to him in Buffalo, which, you know, I was at that show. I had no excuse. He had as long of a drive as I did, but I had work really early, so I didn't, like, get to do the whole come over to the merch table after. I was very, like, kind of bolted for the door, and it's like, I got to get home. I have work early in the morning.
I get it.
But let's talk about that tour you just did. I mean, amazing show. I saw you guys. You were opening for Hellogoodbye in the early November. You know, how'd that run of shows go?
Dude, it was awesome. As a band, you know, I was a little bit, I don't know what the word is. I was a little bit nervous or something, like, man, it was a 17 show run for us, which the past few years, actually since COVID, that would have been the longest run that we've done. Otherwise, it was like maybe a week at most is what we've done. 3 weeks seem like, oh man, this is a serious run. This is a serious tour. But man, we all fell into it, and pretty quickly, but once you get a few shows in a row under your belt, you feel like, man, we're really gelling right now. We're sounding good. And just in general, we treated ourselves to, okay, back in the day, we'd all cram into one hotel room. Well, this time we would get 2 hotel rooms. So everybody got at least a bed or a pull-out couch. And, you know, just, I'm not saying we were living in the lap of luxury, but we made sure we all had a good meal every day, and we all got good sleep every night. And I think it just made the whole thing super enjoyable. And I think we played well. Shows were great. Beautiful venues everywhere we went. Nice sized crowds everywhere we went. Response was cool. Man, it was really good. Really good.
It was fun. I mean, I've seen you live so many times, but I was trying to see you. I know you played Erie maybe like last November, and we ended up getting really bad snow.
Yep.
So I ended up missing that one. But since then, the last time I saw you would have been, I believe you did a holiday show in Pittsburgh, like 2017, maybe a few days after Christmas. It was the last time I saw you live. It had been forever. So it was great to finally see you live again, as a 3-piece, or not as a 3-piece, as a 5-piece.
Yeah.
So also, I mean, let's get into that. How long have you been playing as a 5-piece again? I mean, I think it's been a little, for me, it seems really recent, but hasn't it been at least a year or two?
Yeah, it's been a couple years now, and it was just a natural thing of like past members coming back, and just really I'm surrounded in this band by people that I have played music with my whole life in one way or another, and it's kind of just the 5 of us coming together was pretty natural. And something special that we have in our band is our original drummer PJ and our current drummer Corey. Now sometimes Corey is touring in another band and is playing music nonstop, that PJ steps in and plays. We have an amazing drummer team, so we never have to turn things down because one guy or the other can't play. They're both awesome drummers. And at this point in our lives, everybody is either at the youngest, late 30s, at the oldest, mid 40s. Like, we're all in that range, and all just I don't know. I feel like egos are to the side, and at this point, just enjoy making music together, and we make it work however it has to work. And I think that's rare to make it through all the hard times, all the peaks and valleys of being a band, and come out the other side and just be like, we love doing this, and it's so special that we get to do it at this point,
No, that's not a small feat. I think that's amazing, and it's very cool to see. Again, like you sounded really good as a 5-piece. I mean, now that you didn't sound good as a 4-piece, but 5-piece sounded really good for like you. And maybe this would be more of a question, aimed for like Steve. But like for you as a bass player, I know adding a third guitar might change up like what you're playing on guitar. But for you as bass, like, are there any songs and now playing live, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, I know you played like Flashlight and Heart Transplant and stuff when I saw you in Buffalo. Like, I don't know, do any of those songs change on bass, or is that not really change with the third guitar?
It doesn't change for me. And the guys, once again, like, it's just a compliment to the guys I'm lucky enough to play music with. It rarely happens that, like, oh, we have 3 guitars and 2 of them are just playing the same thing. Everybody uses that to do something unique, and it's not just like, I know this is Power Chord Hour, but it's not 3 guys all just chugging power chords. Everyone's doing something musically interesting, and not that he's not a great guitarist too, but I think Steve, who has to sing the most, it takes a little pressure off of him at certain parts. He can stop playing at certain points. He can focus on the singing a little bit more. But for the most part, I think for having 3 guitars, I like to think we use them tastefully,
I think so. You sounded good, and again, like, it didn't sound, even from a listener standpoint, nothing sounded different where I'm like, oh, there's like all this new like noodling in the wherever part of this song. Like, everything was very tasteful. Yeah. Nothing unnecessary noodling or anything like that in the set. It was solid. Another one that, like, I was thinking, and I don't know, I feel like I asked this a decent amount with bands that have been around a while, but is that hard, like, getting a set list? Like, I mean, I think you guys played like a half hour, and like, again, you have so many albums, and on top of that, not only do you have so many albums, you have a new album. So I know you want to play new stuff. You have songs that I know are probably, I don't know, the songs that either, I don't know if you want to say you got to play them, but are somewhat expected. Like, is that hard trying to get, especially talking like that 30, 40 minute context? Like, is that hard to try to get a set list that represents what you want to represent, everything in the Punchline catalog?
It's tough, man, because we got to narrow down like 10 albums worth of songs. I mean, we're pushing 30 years as a band here.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that. But yeah, narrowing it down, like for that tour, honestly, like by later in the tour, we asked the other bands, like, hey, would it be okay if we started playing 5 minutes earlier? So if we were supposed to start at 8, we'd be like, can we start at 7:55 so we could play one more song? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And so we were doing like 8 songs, which, you know what, man? I do believe in the theory of leave them wanting more. You know, like we thought on this tour, of course, everywhere we went, this is awesome. Never take it for granted. There were people that wanted to see us, but we were also playing in front of a lot of people that didn't know us. So you wanted to I think we did a nice balance of, like you said, songs. There's a few songs from our catalog that people expect us to play. We have this song called Heart Transplant that's from our album Action that's 20 some years ago. People expect us to play that. Our most played song, like on the streaming things, is this song called Universe. People expect us to play that. There's a few others that you said, Flashlight. But then we always throw in a few for us. Not saying that people might not like them, but songs we feel like we play really well, we enjoy playing, they mean a lot to us. And of course, like you said, we do have a new album. It's just a few months old called Somewhere to Land. We were like, we got to at least play one song from that. So yeah, it is a balance, but I do think the set we arrived at was like what we thought was the perfect balance of like, hey, if you like our band and you're coming to see us, you'll probably want to see these songs, and also songs where it's like, okay, maybe we can win over some people with something that we think is both from a song perspective and musically interesting and grabs your attention or something. I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough knowing what people want to hear.
No, I could see that. And you are right. I mean, I go into it going, I mean, I wouldn't care if you guys played for 2 hours. I would have cared if you played a, headlining size set. But you are right. If you don't know a band, I do think there's something to be said about give them like that nice sweet spot of like a half hour where even if they like it, don't bash them over the head with something they're not familiar with.
Right.
That is a real nice magic spot, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like right where you guys were playing.
Yeah.
But, Go ahead. No, for like the, new songs, though, talking about that and playing them live, how many, was that the first time playing those songs off the new album live, or had you already played? Like, I guess I don't know how much of a chance you've gotten to play songs off of that record live so far.
Just a few shows here and there before we did that tour. And, of a 7 to 8 song set on that tour, we were doing one new one. It was the first track on our new album called I Don't Want to Live in This World Anymore, which we thought it's just like an upbeat, like, I don't know, a song that it's so much fun to play. I can't stress enough. There are certain songs that, hey, they might be a good song, but they're not as fun. They're not as fun to play. Like, I'm talking physically fun. Like, it is. What I'm doing with my fingers is fun. What I'm singing is fun. The way I can move to the song is fun. It's just like the right tempo, the right feel of the song. And that one just felt like a song that we've played for 20 years or something. That was one. And, a lot of times, man, it works out this way. The first song on an album ends up being like a song that people end up asking us to play and stuff. So that's also one. It was the first song we released before the album came out, and it's one that people have talked to us, maybe more than the others on the album so far or up there. So yeah, it didn't feel weird to play it. It actually feels better than some of the older songs to play.
That I was thinking too when you were talking about like fun, like songs that are fun to play live. Like, there's a few Punchline songs where like I feel like there's some great, not just a few, but there's some real nice bass line heavy ones where like the bass line kind of, is really what drives the song. Are those the most fun ones to play, or are those not? Because some of them I'm like, they're a little more like, maybe it's not, you can't jump around and stuff. Maybe you are thinking a little more of what you're playing. Like, are the more bass heavy songs the most fun ones to play, or are those not as fun to play live? I
would say that they're probably fun. Now, there's when I think about that, like what are like the more complicated songs on bass?
Like,
I can go back and think of like, so this year we're celebrating a 20-year anniversary of this album called 37 Everywhere that we released in 2006. And there's this song, it's like a deep cut, that it's called They Are Strong Hands. And it is just...
that was the one I was thinking
that's
of.
what... that one, actually, that one would be maybe a little bit less fun because if people are listening right now, they're not seeing, but like it's a real stretch. And I have like big hands, like kind of long fingers, but it's got like a real big stretch in it. So I do have to like concentrate, and I can't really I have to turn down the rocking out down maybe 20% so I could not mess up. But in general, like, hey, if I can show off a little bit on bass, I kind of think that's fun.
I had my bass teacher. That was a song I will say I could not learn that by ear. I think when I was like 18, I had my bass teacher across the street from like right where I'm recording with you right now in the little rehearsal space over there. I was like, hey, teach me this song. And I think even he gave you a compliment. Like, hey, that's a pretty good bass playing on there.
Wow, that's sick, dude. This is the first time in my life I have ever been on a show talking to someone who said, I was learning a bass line from you. Like, that is wow. That's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten, man. That's incredible.
I even used my time. I mean, I was paying the guy. This wasn't even me sitting in my room, like, learning by ear. I'm paying a dude by, like, the hour. And it's like, hey, man, teach me this song.
Sick.
He's like, all right, let's do it. No, let's, we will actually, I definitely want to talk 37 Everywhere later, because that was the album I found you guys on, and I know it's turning 20 this year, but let's talk more new music. Let's talk Somewhere to Land. How long, how far back was this recorded? Was this something I know was just released, but I mean, was it recorded a couple months ago and then put out? Did you record it a while back and it's been sitting a while? Take us back there. When was this all recorded?
Dude, I am almost embarrassed to tell you how long we worked on that album. You know why? Because some of it we recorded at the studio called the Kaleidoscope in Lancaster with our friends JB, who used to be the singer in a band called Bright and Early. Just like he's he's an amazing, musician, singer, producer, and then our friend John Smith. Also, those two worked as a team on this album. And also just amazing in his own right. So some of the songs were recorded at that studio, but a lot of it as well was recorded here and there in all of our individual home studios. And then, dude, I tracked the bass for some of those songs while Steve and I were on a vacation together at Myrtle Beach. Recorded some of those songs at in the place we were staying. We would do one song a day, or we did a couple of them a day, just tracking the bass there. And that was, I'm not exaggerating, that was 5 years ago. It was during COVID where a small group of us went to a secluded place. A buddy of ours got a place. He said, let's just us. We won't be around anybody, but we'll go to this place. So we've been working on that album forever. And I will tell you, Anthony, never again will we do it that way. I said, and my guys in my band agree, that from here on out, we're going like we did back in the day, into a studio with a producer and doing the whole thing. Because the thing is that when you have unlimited time, then you have unlimited time to get what they might call analysis paralysis or whatever, where, theoretically, when it comes to music, you could just keep working on the same song forever. You could keep adding and subtracting things. You could just try to keep besting your performance. You could go on forever. And I feel like we had a little case of that with this album,
No, I've learned, I guess I kind of thought of that before, but I think talking to bands, you do realize that the gift and curse of, even back in the day when bands had the budgets where it's we'll just go get a big old mansion and record for a year and a half. And it's that's great, but then sometimes it's not great because you have, like you're saying, you overthink things. Oh, I need the orchestra needs to come in. Here's where the strings come in, like
Dude.
over here, and so things like that. And it can be good and bad. I mean, the outcome, though, I will say the album is great. So I mean, the songs didn't suffer, but I can see where recording it, that kind of process, not being super fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
First of all, thanks. I'm glad you like it. We're super proud of it. I'm, I always think to myself that, I appreciate everything that we've been able to do for a band, and grass is always greener, like you could always wish like, hey, I achieved this level of success or whatever. But, my point being with that is like, now I appreciate it more than ever. I realize going out and being able to do awesome tours and being able to like have people that care, I realize that's more than 99.9% of bands get to do. And I appreciate that. I've even experienced it, like doing like other bands and side projects along the way. It's hard to get people to care. It's really hard. So the fact that like we have, a listener base of people that like what we do, like I appreciate that so much. But all that is to say that because we never achieved like some like massive level of success, I think that's kept us hungry to get better at writing songs and get better at our instruments and get better at being a band. So I think that's the silver lining of never having a hit song or something, is that like, hey man, we're still trying to do that. So I hope that every album we make is better than the last.
I can tell you, yeah, you've never made an album where I was like, oh no, I gotta like forget that one. Like you've yet to in Anthony's book, you've not put out a stinkeroo. There has not been a stinkeroo in the Punchline catalog. I think it is always, and you've always progressed. Obviously, I mean, you sound so. I mean, this album from like when you talk like 37 Everywhere. I mean, yeah, it's the same band, but at the same time, you definitely don't sound like the band who rewrote 37 Everywhere 7 different times in the last 20 years. And I don't think you would like that either. I also don't get the vibe from the band that you guys like. I don't think you and Steve would be very stoked if you were still rewriting like that album over and over again. I just don't get that from you guys. You always seem like you have fresh ideas and always want to be doing something different, musically.
Absolutely. And I just think as you move through life, you're inspired by more things, be it musical inspirations or life inspirations. When you move through your 30s and your 40s, you have new experiences in life. You have, I don't know, all those things we all go through, man. I mean, you have great moments, and you have loss, and you have pain, and you have just all these things we're all experiencing together, and just new things. There's always new things to write about, and there's always great music to be inspired by. That's what I find anyway.
Oh no, 100%. With the album going back to that recording and recording it throughout the years and all that, was it mostly recording throughout those years, or was there writing? So like, I guess what I'm saying is like, were pretty much all the songs written by like, I don't know, 2021, 2022, and then it was mostly recording them, or was there still writing up until maybe recently?
Yeah, it's funny. This collection of 10 songs on this album, they were written. Some of these songs had been like, we have drop boxes full of, everybody in the band writes songs. Everybody does. And there's just so many like demos floating around. Some of these songs have been around in our world for a long time. And I do think like there were little things that were added to ideas that already existed. But yeah, these songs, as far as to us, I'm thinking like through the songs. Yeah, these 10 songs have existed in one way or another for beyond 5 years. These were songs that we felt were strong enough that we needed to do proper recordings of them beyond demos. So yeah, I don't think that any of these were like late in the game. But that being said, as we start to plan, future recordings, future albums, I do like starting fresh, at least with some. Now, dude, it's so funny when you're in a band and you're with lots of other songwriters. There are songs like songs Steve has written and you know, everybody in our band that, like, to me, I've known this song or this idea for 15 years. Oh, I've always liked this. To me, this is like some classic song that only me and my bandmates have ever heard. You know, it's so weird. And same thing with songs I've written. It's like, this is an idea. And that being said, you kind of get a gauge if you want to listen to that idea or you're still proud of that song years later, whether it's a good song or not, you know?
No, that definitely makes sense. And then, like, with that, you know, going through that process and everything, then where does Paul come in? Like, did Paul, you know, like, his involvement, I take it wasn't right at the beginning. Like, did he come in kind of in the middle of recording and all that, or where's he kind of come in?
He did. And we, you know, there was a Paul got to put his fingerprints on almost all of the songs on the album. No. And I know especially the closing track, which was, you know, it stemmed from an idea I had. And I don't care about, I get satisfaction in writing songs and playing songs and whatever. I don't necessarily feel like I have to sing them. Sometimes I have a nice place where my voice sings and I think it sounds best. But otherwise, I get a little self-conscious about my vocals sometimes. And look, I am not saying this because I'm digging for compliments. And my friends will be like, no, you sound great. But it's just a human thing, man. Hearing yourself sing is such a weird thing. And like on the closing track, Focus on Yourself, I was like, Paul, you got to sing this second verse, sing the chorus out. I love Paul's voice. And for anyone who knows our band, I feel like Steve and Paul's voices have always worked really well together. They have like a sort of magic about it. And I really, I'm glad that, I wish Paul would have been there from the very beginning of this album. And I look forward to the next album, him being there from the beginning. But I'm glad that he got to get in the mix on these songs because I don't know, man, us guys, I feel like there's something to be said for the special sauce that everybody getting their magic on the song makes it Punchline and makes it good. You know, I like to think anyway.
No, you know, another one I was thinking, because I mean, I think I was going to ask, like, you know, the whole kind of difference between the making of, you know, Lion and this album. And I think you explained a lot there. But how about writing wise? Like the initial, not the recording, but the writing of the songs. I mean, the writing of those songs for Lion versus the writing for Somewhere to Land. I mean, was that process pretty similar, or was even that fairly you know, was that different at all?
Those were pretty similar. You know, we talked about back in the day when we were making like our mid-2000s albums and before that was always, not that we don't, it's funny, we practice, where we practice, it's like a storage space in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, and it is the same, not the same room, a different room, but the same place where we wrote the Action album that we released in 2004. We still practice at that same place. And if you saw this place from the outside, Anthony, you would crack up because it is next to like a junkyard, and like it's just in like what was, I don't know about 2026, but in the past few years I saw a video going around the 5 most dangerous neighborhoods in Pennsylvania. This was number 1 on the list. Number 1, McKees Rocks. But I think back then was a lot more being in the room and working out things and ideas as a band. And now I think it's a lot more because everyone has their own home studios, at least coming to practice, or sometimes just straight up passing the sessions around or passing files around. And we didn't have the technology back then, really. Maybe would have done it more that way. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but I think Lion and Somewhere to Land were pretty similar. Look, you could as a solo person really flesh out a whole idea, like everything in your own, to be able to present it as more than just an acoustic guitar and a vocal and showing everyone. But I do think it's important to note that bells and whistles don't make a song. Like a song, how you can tell a song is a great song is if take away all the production, take away all the little nuances. Is it still a good song? Even take away the guitar, just singing it a cappella. Is it still a good song? I think sometimes I've done this countless times. It reminds me. I'm sure you've seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh yeah.
You know that point in the movie where he gets in the studio, and I think they're kind of making fun of Brian Wilson at that point, but he has like 50 didgeridoos and just like has all those people in the studio. It's so easy to get like that when you open a Logic session or a Pro Tools session and just keep throwing things on top of it. That will not save a bad song. If it's a bad song, no matter how much stuff you pile on top of it, it's still going to be a bad song. So I'm getting long-winded here. My point is,
this is great though. I like you. Really good point. I know what you're saying for sure. Yeah,
right. You know it's a good song if I can sing it to you and you're like, oh, that's good, without even a guitar, just sing it. It's a good song. So yeah, but it is nice to be able to, if you have a vision for a song, to be able to like map it out and show people like, oh, here's my idea of like what you guys will do on the other guitars and how the drums will go and yeah, there's benefits, there's pros and cons to it, but I like being able to map out an idea on my own,
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. Like, let's so again, let's jump back a little bit to the album that I got into the band on was 37 Everywhere. I saw you guys opening for Bowling for Soup at House of Blues in Cleveland on that tour, which I loved. That I guess it was the second song. You didn't open with Flashlight on this tour, but just every time you play it live, I just remember you opening with Flashlight when I first saw you. So it always makes me, the whole nostalgia thing. Yeah, it makes me nostalgic, because I will also say, and look at the album, it's funny because there's so many albums that I love that I'm 33, and like when these album anniversary tours kind of come around, they either like I wasn't around when that album came out, or I was like, I don't know, eight years old and have no clue. Like I wasn't listening to the Movie Life when I was 13. I got into them when I was like in my early 20s, things like that. Now we're getting to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I remember seeing you guys, again, opening for Bowling for Soup. Then when the 37 Everywhere tour hit the Buffalo Icon, like seeing you there also on a Sunday night, like all that stuff started like hitting me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm old. Like this is crazy. I remember when this came out. So let's, talk about this record, like, I'll start off with the real simple one, like just that when you think back to that era of the band, what kind of conjures up in your mind when you think of the writing, recording, and touring of that, and just what was going on with Punchline? Like, what are kind of your just initial thoughts when you think back 20 years ago to that era of the band?
We did and are still doing this sort of like retrospective podcast about the history of our band called Punchline, and we do it like real documentary style. It's not just a conversation. It is like we put a lot of like effort and try to add production value to it and stuff. And the reason I bring that up is because it really, as we do each episode, you have to force yourself back into an era, and sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes you have to dig up old bad memories and stuff. But I do think it was like a transitional period for our band because Paul had left before then. That was our one album we did with our guitarist and friend Greg Wood, who was more of like a shredder guitarist. So there's some real like shredding on that album.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it takes me back to recording in New York City. So that's the album we recorded in New York. And I think before then, I kind of always dreaded New York. I was like, oh no, like I got to find a way to like park a van and trailer in the city, and everything always felt real hectic. But the memory I have of that is like actually living in the city for a month, then walking to the studio and learning to like love the big city. And those are good memories I have from making that album. But I do think it was also a pretty like tumultuous time for our band, because definitely felt the pressure of being in our mid-20s and being on a label and being surrounded by bands that were achieving success beyond anything I even thought was possible for a band like ours, and feeling the stress and pressure of like trying to keep up. But if I could go back in time, I would just say to myself like, yo, just chill, just worry about yourself and not worry so much about like everybody else around you or something. Just like focus on just what you can achieve. I mean, I don't think it's bad. I don't think that's a bad memory. I think it's just like life was a whirlwind, man. I also think about a lot of like personal stuff of, not just me, all of us, like trying to balance having a relationship back at home and being on the road and just like the stress of that. And like, just, I don't know, man, just a lot of feelings flying around like that. It's when you asked like about touring now, it's like, oh, it's so nice to be able to tour and just enjoy being out here and appreciate each day and each show for what it is. It always just felt back then like you're worried about the next thing and not living in the moment, living too much for the next thing and not being able to like appreciate the moment. I know that sounds bad, but that's just honestly what was going on.
No, that makes sense. I mean, also just again, that being the era that like I learned about, you guys started following you. I mean, yeah, you were like out there, I mean, really doing it. I mean, you were very much out there, getting that album out there, touring nonstop. I mean, again, I don't know how many times I saw you in the couple of years of pushing that album between that and Just Say Yes. I mean, you were out there doing quite a few tours, doing a lot of promotion and stuff. So I totally get what you mean, and where that could definitely get you tired and, burned out after a while like that. You were doing a lot of it back then.
Dude,
I also...
Yeah, dude, there were tours like 3 weeks. That's a decent tour that we just did. That's like pretty solid. Like even bigger bands you see now, 3 weeks is like a pretty good tour. We were doing tours like 2005 and 2000. You see that Bowling for Soup tour, 2006, and the 2005 was with Real Big Fish. They were tours that were basically the entire summer long. We're talking months of being out on the road. So yeah, man, it was we were serious.
You brought something up which I didn't think about before, but when you're talking about like the pressure, because like really, I guess I don't know how that didn't cross my mind, but yeah, like 05, 06, that is like Fueled by Ramen. Like you got a lot of those bands blowing up, albums blowing up. That pressure you were talking about, did you feel it during the writing, or was it more post it coming out and more of, again, that promotion and getting it out to the world? Like, did you also feel or writing? Because you bring up a great point. That's when that label was really like, that's like Fueled by really blowing up. I mean, yeah, they were named before that, obviously, but like those bands were getting really big right then.
At that moment, I can tell you that, I mean, I don't want to speak for the whole band, but I think I can here, that while recording, I was feeling it so much, and I'll tell you why. Because, like you said, the bands that were on our label that were blowing up, we had like an apartment we rented for that month while we were recording, and it was above a bar that stayed open till 4 a.m, just blasting music, and what they were blasting below us was Fueled by Ramen bands. Like, just not that it was some like punk bar or something. It was just a regular bar. Like, what I'm saying is like our peers were becoming mainstream big, and I would hear it thumping through the bottom of our apartment. Like, so on one hand, you're like, whoa, like being a big band is possible, and what we're doing now could determine that, and I think we were feeling the pressure like while recording.
No, I could totally see that. Another one you brought up earlier too, like with Greg Wood, like where does he come into the mix? Like, was he there from the beginning of the writing? Did he come in like during the middle of it? Like, where did his addition come into the band?
He was there for the entire writing of 37 Everywhere, because when Paul left the band, and we talk about this on our podcast, we were so determined. When I look at it in retrospect, and look, no regrets about anything, but we were so single-mindedly determined to be a band and keep going that Paul quit, and instantly that day, we had known Greg, had played shows together. He was from Connecticut. We thought he was like a talented dude. Called him, and because we had a show the next day, he learned the songs on the way to play the set, and I think the show was in New York, actually. I think it was at the Continental in New York. Came down and played a show with us like we didn't even miss a show. God. Yeah, and looking back, once again, no regrets. Like I'm proud of what we did with Greg, and Greg ended up leaving the band after that album, but it's like, wow. Sometimes I'm like, man, should we have taken a little time? But no, we just felt like we could not stop touring. We could not stop playing shows. We could not stop putting out albums. We felt like if we stopped, then that was going to be the end. People were going to forget about us. We were going to get that would be the end of our band. So I don't know. At that time, it was me, Steve, and PJ. We just felt like, no, we have to keep going. So to answer your question, yes, Greg, all the songs on 37 Everywhere, Greg was there from the birth of the songs. Yeah.
No, that was such a treat to, and it's crazy to think that was 10 years ago. But I don't remember, did you guys, was it a run of shows you did with Greg in 2016 for 37 Everywhere? I saw you play Buffalo, but I don't remember if it was one-off or if you actually played like 3 shows. You did play a show in Buffalo, did 37 Everywhere, front to back with him. But I can't remember if it was only just that one show.
It must have been a couple. I wonder if it was like paired with like a Pittsburgh show or something, because
that would make sense. You guys played it. It's gone now. It was upstairs of the waiting room in Buffalo, like a block over from the rec room. It's crazy to think that was a decade ago. It was like, I think September, October of 2016.
Dude, everything's such a blur to me. My bandmates are way better at like being able to pinpoint like, oh yeah, that was that weekend we did of this show and that show, and this person came out. I'm like, oh my God, how do you guys remember? And yeah, that's why, I talked about doing that Punchline podcast. I'm glad we're doing it. Like we're up to the Thrilled out. We're up to 2015 on it. Like each episode is an album and everything that happened during that era. But I'm glad we're doing them so that at least I can preserve or reignite some memories that may have been lost. And like even what you're talking about, man, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I could see it on your face as I was giving you more details. I'm like, I think you're like recalling this show a little bit. Like, here, I'll give you a few more details.
Yeah.
And I got to say, like, I mean, that podcast you do is awesome. I mean, everyone should go check that out. Like, I was thinking about this too, like, kudos to you, because like, when did you first start? I feel like you've done a few podcasts throughout the years. Like, if I'm not mistaken, you used to do one from like the van. Like, if I'm remembering, you hit like a bird or something on the road during one podcast. Like, if I'm remembering correctly, that'd be like 08, 09. Like, you've been doing podcasts for a long time.
I and we and Punchline have been doing podcasts since the dawn of podcasts, because I found out what a podcast was, then was like, well, how do you do this? How do you sign up for it? And you're talking about the White Van podcast, which, dude, I'll tell you what, we would just open my laptop in there and just through the internal mic, we would just talk, and I lost those episodes. Like, I think they were on a hard drive and they don't exist anymore. I would love to listen back to them. You are correct. In fact, we were just talking about hitting that dude.
I haven't listened to that since it came out. It just has always been burned in my brain.
we were driving down the road, and I forget who was driving. Maybe it was Paul, or I can't remember who it was. But a snowy owl just out of nowhere, it just flew full speed into the grill of our van. Like, I don't know if it was chasing something. Like, there's nothing we could have done to not hit it. We couldn't, like, it came full blast. And it wasn't because we were podcasting, because I had the laptop on my lap and like a seat in the back, and it was like just having a conversation in the van. It wasn't like whoever was driving was distracted, but it stuck into the grill of our van. We pulled over it, and then the thing fell out of the grill, and we're like, oh my God, we were so sad because it was such a beautiful owl. It was like a all white owl, and like, we're like, God damn it. Like, this sucks. Like, I felt so bad about it, but it happened mid podcasting. Like, you hear us on the podcast, like, oh no, what was that? And yeah. And then we brought it up recently. We're doing the Thrilled episode of our podcast, and we talked about how on the cover of that album we have a chair, and we have a snowy owl is sitting on the chair as like a tribute to that owl. So there you go, full circle, man.
I'll have to see, like, maybe I have those episodes on a hard drive somewhere. I will have to look, because maybe I wouldn't be shocked. I'm fairly good at backing up like my old iTunes and stuff. Like, I would have had to think that I downloaded those at some point to put on my iPod or my iPod video.
Dude, if you have them, they're
coming your way.
I would do anything to listen to those. So if you have them, but yeah, in general, yeah, podcasting, and now it's what I do for like a living.
I want to get into that too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You know, so podcasting has been a big thing for me, for sure.
No, and I mean that, let's get into that. And actually, let me flail my arms so the lights come back on.
Yeah, your lights went out.
Yeah, they're automatic, and if I sit still too long, they just disappear. And the only way to get them on is to flail my arms in front of this window with a parking garage right across the street from me. I have to look nuts every time. But no, I want to get into that. Chris DeMakes a podcast, that being one of them. I mean, that's really awesome. Great podcast. Let's talk about that a little. Like, I know you're a producer. Like, talk a little bit about, how that came about. Like, how did that happen?
So Chris DeMakes a podcast is a podcast I produce and somewhat co-host with Chris from the band Less Than Jake, who Less Than Jake have been longtime, like, just mentors to us as a band. And longtime friends. They've taken us on tour many times, but I was doing animation for a while, and Chris DeMakes, who is the guitarist and singer of Less Than Jake, he hired me to do a little video for him to advertise his songwriting business. Like, he'll do custom personalized songs for people. And then after I did that, he's like, hey man, do you have any ideas for me of like how I can promote this? And I said, well, maybe you should start a podcast. And he's like, everybody does a podcast. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but everybody is not you. And then I pitched him the idea of he knows everybody. He's in a big band, everybody. How about if you did a podcast where you broke down, like, from a songwriter's perspective, the writing and recording of that artist's most well-known song? And now here we are 6 years later, and we've had everybody from Huey Lewis to Mark Hoppus to Dee Snider, and we never missed a week for we're about to release our 300th episode of that.
Jeez.
And it was, at first it was meant as just a thing to advertise his song, to kind of on the down low advertise his songwriting business, but it's turned into like a pretty popular music podcast. And around the same time that we started that, just a few months before that, my buddy Matt approached me about doing a podcast about one-hit wonders called One Hit Thunder, and we've also been doing that for 6 years and 300 plus episodes of that. So between those two podcasts and some other like producing and editing work I've done, I've been able to hustle and kind of piece together a living for myself from those things. Yeah,
that is really, congratulations for making it going for that long, man. 6 years, that is insane. Yeah. I didn't realize they were both going along. I knew they had both been around for a while, but I don't think I realized it's been 6 years now. My God. No, huge congrats on that.
Thanks, man.
Like, What is your like? I think being a producer of anything is interesting because I think it can be so many different things. Like, what would you say your kind of roles are as a producer? Like, I feel like when you say like a producer for anything, not just a podcast, music, or anything, like it's not one thing. It can be such different things.
Well, I'll use Chris DeMakes a podcast as a example. So, booking the guests and booking and scheduling the guests, then being there for the recording of it, and then editing, which I'm a crazy person about editing, to the point where every episode, if you check it out, it's called Chris DeMakes a Podcast. It's available wherever you get pods. But every episode of that, if I showed you my Logic session of my editing, it might boggle your mind because I'm making probably between 500 and 1,000 edits in every episode. And it usually takes me like 8 to 10 hours per episode of editing because I'm taking out every inserting every part of the song that's being talked about. Just like there's a lot that goes into it, and because I take pride in that. I want it to be a very streamlined and enjoyable listening experience. Then, once an episode's edited, you get it scheduled, and then on top of that, of course, you got to promote it. You got to create social media videos. You got to, we have a pretty good Facebook group for that. Now, I know Facebook's a little like antiquated at this point, but it's a group, like a private group where we have like close to 6,000 members in there, and it's all very music-centric conversation. It's all music lovers, and it's very interactive. Like, people really do like chime in, and it's pretty like, for the internet being such a cesspool sometimes, it's a real escape of like music lovers. And the same thing for One Hit Thunder. Like, it's just people that love music talking about music, and I think that's a little bit of an escape. Not that I say you should like wear blinders to the world, but every once in a while it's nice to like, you're a music lover, I'm a music lover. It's nice to just talk about music you love, music you hate,
100%.
Whatever, It's a cool thing. And then beyond that, it's like, we got Patreon stuff. It's just, dude, for every episode of the podcasts I do, there is an unending, and I know you have to know this too, an unending amount of stuff you could theoretically do to promote and try to grow your show. And that is just like the nonstop world of trying to grow something you do, be it your band, your podcast, whatever. It's like you get what you give,
You're so right about that. That is, and you even more so. I mean, I've been here at WRFA for years and years. I became the general manager last year. Now, like running the station, like you're talking about, it never ends. Like, it's not like you can go, oh, I did everything I can do, all right, done. Station is at its peak. We've done, like, there's almost always a little pit in my stomach. Like, did you do, you know what I mean? Like, did you get as much as you could done? Or like, even like you're talking about, I like editing. Like I hear all the things that none of the listeners will hear. And I edit, but sometimes I gotta stop myself because I'm like, I'm doing that for several shows. I gotta run this, I gotta do that. I can't sit here, and then you gotta remind yourself, it's like only you. It's like the little mark on the headstock of your guitar. Only you see it. No one else sees it. It's the same with the editing. Like, there's certain things where like eventually you go, okay, certain things they can hear, but other ones it's like no one knows but you. And it's so hard to let them go, like you're talking about. I relate to you so hard right now.
Dude, there's certain things I can't let go. If someone stutters or something, I'll fix that. I don't know if you've experienced this. I don't think I do it. My bandmate Corey does it so much. When I'm editing the Punchline podcast, I'm always editing before he starts talking. He goes, the mouth click sound.
I have done it a couple times.
I love you, Corey, but I always got to take out his mouth clicks. And, guests do that all the time. But, like, the things that if I was a listener would drive me crazy, I got to take out. And, if I do my job well, then no one would ever know. Because there's an art to it, too, because if you cut things, dude, I'll tell you this. I listen once in a while. I listen to Dak Shepard's podcast, and they probably make millions of dollars from that podcast.
I'd imagine.
I hate the editing on it because they don't take into consideration breaths. Like they do hard cuts in their editing where it sounds unnatural and weird because I don't know. I'm getting really into the woods here.
No, I love this stuff. Get into it.
But I hear it. I'm like, you guys are probably making millions of dollars from this podcast. It's so huge. Get a better editor on this thing because you guys, it sounds unnatural. Your cuts are so hard and weird. But I'll get off my editing soapbox here, Anthony.
No, I will one more, and then I'll get off mine. I don't know if you get it so much. I know I don't personally for like video interviews, but being in the studio here, we got a desk, and I've put up around the studio because I don't know how to not be like passive aggressive about it. People love to hit the table while they talk. I've had to put up signs that say it gets baked into the please don't hit the desk. It gets baked into the recording, and there's like nothing I can do about it. I have like 5 of those up in the studio I highlighted them with highlighters. I don't know how to not sound like an ass by asking you not to drive the point home by hitting the desk every word you say. If it's under there, it'd be like hitting a snare drum or something every time I talk. I can't. It's baked into that recording. It's not multi-tracked. I can't mute the snare drum under you. It's now in there. And that is a huge one for me. And I don't get it so much with video interviews, but in person, that's the bane of my existence for in-person interviews.
You're preaching to the choir, man. You're preaching to the choir. And the things I got to deal with sometimes of like, hey, if you get a good get as far as a guest, you got to roll with whatever they give you. And the amount of plugins that I have to try to fix terrible Zoom audio and whatever, like Riverside audio, it's just sometimes I'll go down, like I was talking about with our music. I have to say to myself, like, dude, you have 10 plugins on this thing. I turn them all off and go, oh no, the original audio sounded better than after I spent half an hour trying to make this sound better. So I feel your pain is what I'm getting at.
And then, we'll move on from this, but no, you don't even have to name names, but I mean, have you had any interviews where they just kind of because of that, like because they were like doing an interview from like, I don't know, 10 feet from an airplane going off or something like, that it just was unairable? Like, have there been any like that are just like, they will stay in the bowels of history forever because the guest, beyond you, sorry for talking so much about it, but I had a volunteer who's going to do his first Zoom interview soon, and I tried to explain it to him. I'm like, you can do so much on your side, but there's a side of it you have no control over. You have post-production, but you can't do anything if the guy has like traffic going on behind him. Like, have you had any of those where it wasn't salvageable at all?
You know who comes to mind, and this is so funny, is we had, and love the band, the guy's cool and love the song. We had Joe Jack Talcum from the Dead Milkmen on to talk about Punk Rock Girl, and it's like
nice,
absolute classic song. He lives in Philly, like in the city, and he was outside, and I'm like, is there any way you could maybe do this inside? He's like, somebody's sleeping inside. Dude, it was like 11 o'clock and like somebody was sleeping inside, so he couldn't. And it was like, dude, cars honking and just like, it was so loud. But I am, as an editor, pretty proud of what I pulled off because what I started with was bad. I mean, the content of the episode was great. It was a great episode, but he's the first one that comes to mind where I'm like, oh my God, the audio. Oof. But maybe it just matches the vibe of the Dead Milkmen or something. I don't know.
You know what? It is fitting of all the people to be like, yeah, I heard Joe from the Dead Milkmen on. Yeah, that does. It's kind of fitting.
Yeah.
We'll get back into music now. I meant to actually ask this earlier with 37 Everywhere, a bass question that probably only I truly care about, but I gotta ask. If my ears don't deceive me, I believe on Action you're playing a Stingray, and then on 37 Everywhere you're over to the jazz bass. Is there anything specific about I know, and you've been playing jazz bass since. Was there anything specific about that changeover? Is that as simple as I just played a jazz bass one day and preferred that over a Stingray?
Yeah, I think I slightly prefer the jazz bass. There is a sort of aggressive sound of an
punchy.
Ernie Ball, of an Ernie Ball Stingray that, growing up as a teenager, I saw like cool bass players. I'm like, oh, that's like the coolest bass or whatever. But then by the mid 2000s, I began referring, I don't know if everyone refers to it as this, but began referring to that sound of that bass as Warped Tour bass, because there is just something so
fitting.
So distinctive, and I don't mean that as like a diss on it, but I just, I don't want to say matured, but just as my taste changed, I preferred something is tasteful the right word? A little less in your face, a little more tasteful, I think.
I don't think I play a Stingray and a jazz bass and a P bass, but like there's the tastefulness. Like, let's go, I don't think you should play Motown with a Stingray. It's too punchy. Those bass lines are not made to be played on that. That's not the way you play that. If you're playing, like you said, a Warped Tour-esque, if you're playing like something that John Feldman produced in '02, pull out the Stingray, like by all means. There are like tools in the tool shed or whatever that are used for different things. But I do agree with you. I like the jazz bass where it's a nice middle, where it's less punchy than a Stingray, but still a little more punchy than a P bass. I feel like it still stands out more than a P bass, but not, you don't have those active pickups, so it's not as, because you're right, the Stingray is in your face. The Stingray, I don't mind that sound, but I'm 100% with you. You use it for certain things. Other times, it's the wrong tone and sound to go for.
I would be interested, in fact, it's been so long since I played a Stingray on a recording, and look, like my buddy Paul, when recording, I have to get a little something fixed on my Stingray, but he wants me to use it, and I wonder, maybe next practice I'm going to break it out, because maybe I'm going to come back around full circle and be like, you know what? I'm ready to embrace that sound again. I'm ready to get up in your face. And I got to know, Stingrays are awesome. And one thing I'm going to say, this is like a little bit of a brag, Anthony, but back in that era, the mid 2000s, I had a Stingray that was stolen. Steve had a guitar stolen that same night. It was in Amityville, New York. We had Steve's guitar and the first Stingray I ever had got stolen. And it was really beat up, but I would still love to have that, know. Yeah. But at some point we got an Ernie Ball endorsement. We met someone that worked for Ernie Ball, and I thought that they were going to hook me up with the artist deal, 40% off or something. But they sent me a Stingray for free.
Oh, nice.
That's the Stingray I have. So that is one of the coolest things ever, where I think they acted like, I was like, well, how much do I owe you? And they're like, oh, we'll let you know. And then they were just hooked me up with the Stingray. Isn't that sick?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is
cool.
That's pretty rad to be able to say that.
Yeah, I should be hyping it up more. I don't want to. I don't want to sound like I'm coming down on Ernie Ball. It's just a different sound. It's a different sound.
No, there is literally, I'm telling you, my prize bass is a Stingray, but that Stingray does not work for certain there are certain things where I pull out that P bass, or I pull out a jazz bass, or I have a $150 Samick where I have Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in it. It just works better at times. Depends the sound you're going for.
Also, it depends on who's playing it. It depends on the technique and whatever. It all comes down to these are just tools for us.
Yes, 100%, 100%. Well, I know you have, again, 37 Everywhere. You have a anniversary tour, or not anniversary tour, anniversary show in November.
Yep.
I mentioned to you earlier, like I know you guys played the album in 2016. I mean, how much of that album have you not played in those 10 years? I mean, I assume this is going to be the first time you play a good chunk of those songs since you played this album 10 years ago.
There's a couple oddballs on the back end of that album that are like feel like very foreign to me. But you know what, man? It might just be like riding a bike. I'll tell you this. The album before that, Action, I could play that thing front to back. Like, that thing is all muscle memory. And that's the thing, man. Muscle memory is just the greatest. When you have played a song enough times that you can just play it and you don't even have to think about it. Probably half of those songs on that album are like that for me, just muscle memory. And then the other half, whatever. If I spend a little bit of time with each one, it'll be all good. I think, to be honest, like remembering the lyrics, I don't envy Steve on some of those ones. Like,
don't
sometimes
forget, you got Exactly. You still got Exactly, man.
Dude, that song, for anyone listening who doesn't know, the last song on this album, it is like so different than any other Punchline song, especially on that album. It's in drop D. It was an idea from our guitarist Greg, who was just on that album, and I have like a shouted speech in it that like I don't know. I guess it's cool, but when I look back on it, I'm like, I'm not gonna say cringe, but I kind of am like, this is a little much.
As a listener, it's not too much, but I also understand, like, at the same time, I get where, as the one doing it, where you can look back and, like, I get, like, if that makes sense to you, like, it's not too much when I listen. I love it. But I get where, like, I've done things where I go, yeah, I don't regret it, but yeah, like, when I don't want to listen to it myself, per se, but I don't regret it or anything like that.
Yeah, no regrets here.
You know, you do. That is such a heavy song. Now I'm thinking about it. When you guys go to play it, I know it wasn't on the album, but maybe that's a Stingray song. I mean, that's Drop D, Warped Tour, Drop D. I mean, that has a home in Warped Tour world. I mean, you gotta pull out the Stingray for that one, because you're right. There's the intro. Like, there's not even like, there's nothing. It just starts, just that dun-dun-dun, like you all start playing like right away.
Dude,
I
Anthony,
love that song.
For you, I'm going to do it. You have inspired me to have that bass on a thing and be like, hold on a second here.
Yeah, everyone leave the stage and everyone will go, but wait a second, they didn't play Exactly. What the heck's going on? Or maybe you just leave the stage and everyone goes, where's Chris going? Where is he? And then you just come back with the Stingray. Everybody loses their mind. People flip out. They lose their...
You think people are going to start moshing when they see my Stingray?
I mean, the barricade, they're going to rip the barricade down. They're going to be on the stage. I mean, it is going to be insane. People won't be able to handle seeing Chris Fafalios with a Stingray in 2026. The universe won't be able to handle that.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
No, I'm excited for that. I will probably make it. I will say that is the nice thing with Punchline being, you know, roughly 2.5 hours, 3 hours from Pittsburgh. You know, I'm never too far. And same with when the weather cooperates. You know, you play Erie and stuff like that. So I still get to catch you guys when you do, you know, those little like kind of regional runs, which I'm happy about.
Hey, man, I got to tell you, I really appreciate you liking us for this long. I know you well. Like, I mean,
just crazy.
Not that I see you that often, but like, I know who Anthony Merchant is. I feel like we used to. Didn't you used to talk to me on Instant Messenger back in the day? Didn't you have a?
Not on AIM. No,
not on AIM.
I didn't. Like definitely everything else though, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of like the bad, like MySpace.
You're just one of those people I've known forever. Like, I've known who you are forever. And I think thanks for liking us for so long, man. That, you know, and there's people like that I've known who they are forever. Like, I'm talking 20 plus years, because they came out to a show and just like, I see them on the internet and I see what they're doing. You know, it's just, I'm just saying thanks, man. That's all. I appreciate you liking us.
I appreciate that. And I will say it is funny, because I wonder, like, I know I've been to a lot of shows and I've said hi and stuff, but even that, like, going, going and saying hi after the show, like I never want to assume that anyone remembers you. So I never know if like I don't know if you'll remember me or if you'd be like, oh yeah, I vaguely
I saw
know
you
that
when
guy.
we were playing at the show. I saw you.
Did you see me?
Yeah, I saw you in the crowd.
You know what? There was a guy there who ended up, I've never met him in person. We're just Instagram friends. And when he saw where my pictures were at Punchline, he's like, dude, you were standing in front, like you were the tall guy blocking my view during Punchline. That was you the whole time.
There you
and
go.
I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was you. My bad. No, because I will also say I may have gotten there. I believe online it said you guys were playing at 8. And I got there thinking I was early at 7:30, and I was in the bathroom and I go, wow, that opening music sounds a lot like Punchline. And I go, no, it is Punchline. So I went running. I like rushed from the bathroom, like washing my hands, just beeline right for that stage. I'm like, oh no, I had to get out there. So no.
Yeah, that tour we switched up. It was some nights we started at 7:30, some nights we started at 8, and we never really knew before like the day of the show which it was. And there's a big difference. I will tell you, there is a big difference between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, if you're going to a show, pretty much everyone that is going to be there is there. 7:30, it's kind of like everyone is there by the time you're halfway through your set or something, but I don't know. Just glad to be there at all, man.
Dude, I thought I was early. I was like, oh yeah, I got there early. Here, I'll get in. I have a half hour. Like, oh no, you don't. You don't have a half hour. But no, I mean, Chris, great talk. I mean, we got to do this again. It cannot be the last time we have you on here. But again, you have the 37 Everywhere show later this year. But what else? Is there anything else, throughout the year or coming up that we should let people know about in the world of Punchline or beyond? It doesn't have to just be about Punchline.
Well, we have some announcements, maybe some festival announcements coming up. I would gladly say what they are, but I guess we're not supposed to. I guess that's like in poor
Fair
form
enough.
to say that, but there may be a few festivals. And otherwise, yeah, we are nonstop creating things. We're working on new music. We had this band called Punchline Podcast. We got a Patreon where we're nonstop posting stuff here, just be it unreleased demos and podcasts and old photos and tons of stuff like that. We're just trying to stay really busy as a band and just trying to do the next thing that will hopefully level up our band,
No, I love it. I love you're still doing it. And yeah, I mean, again, like it's crazy. There's so many, I don't know, like I love, like take Drive-Thru. Like I love Drive-Thru Records, so many of those bands, but I got into them like once half of them broke up or like,
Yeah.
they were like, I mean, heck, even the early November, I loved their November. I discovered them in like 2011.
Yeah.
Like I was late to the game. Whereas with Punchline, you guys, I'm like, oh my God, like I remember when that album came out or I remember buying that or going to that show. So happy you guys are still doing it. Plugs now. Where do we go find the album? Where do we go follow you online? Where do we find the podcast, your Patreon? Shameless plugs.
Okay.
Promote away now. Just plug away, Chris.
I think a good central hub to all things Punchline is just to go to punchlinemusic.com, because from there, everything we've talked about, be it our albums, our Bandcamp page, our Patreon, links to where, I mean, obviously you can go to all the streaming sites and look for Punchline and find us and find our new album. It's called Somewhere to Land. And, if I had to push people that are either new to us or know us, go to your podcast app and look for A Band Called Punchline. It's a podcast that, like, I'm pretty proud of how we've been able to really tell the story of our band in a way that even if you didn't know our band is entertaining. I think we have a good story and a lot of peaks and valleys that would make for a good movie or something. And I feel like we did our best to do that via this podcast. It's a real audio documentary. And yeah, Punchline Music is the best place. Yeah, it has links to everything and band called Punchline. I think that. And if you're into podcasts, Chris DeMakes a Podcast is a podcast I produce. One Hit Thunder is a podcast I host with my buddy Matt. And yeah, those are my plugs.
I love it. Before we go, anything else to let the good people know before we close this out?
That's about it. I hope everyone listening is good. Take care of yourself out there. It's a weird world, and we can make it through it together, I hope.
No, I mean, Chris, again, don't know how this took 10 years. Thanks for doing this. It was longer than a Quinterview, but thanks for answering all those questions.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that show. You got to bring Quinterviews back.
Yeah.
People can go check that out as well.
Yeah.
It was 5 questions.
It's 5 questions.
With that, I'm Anthony Merchant talking to Chris Fafalios. Go listen to Punchline's new album, Somewhere to Land. And I'll be back next time. You're tuned into the Power Chord Hour.